Oh, shoot. Here we go.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Morhonda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard another edition of Indiana Sports Speed Radio, coming to you here on this December, was it 14th? 13th. I can't remember. Yep, I was right. December 14th. That's surprising. I think we have the day right. It's Wednesday, right?
It is Wednesday.
Man, still getting
11 days to Christmas.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. But I guess everything should be believable. Time keeps on rolling, baby. That rock never stops spinning. Bob Kravitz still off, not feeling well. So we hope to have him back next week. Rick Bozich will be on with us. When? John?
Rick Bozich will be on Friday.
Yeah, Rick's going to be on Friday instead. Tell him who's on today, because I forgot. We've got so much changing on.
We'll have Kyle Neddenriep, and we're going to try to bring on Kyler Staley today instead of tomorrow. So,
all right, perfect. Lots to get to. Still just stunned in regards to the Mike Leach passing. Man, what a hole he is going to leave in college football. It was so funny that he should have been the head coach at Tennessee. Tennessee screwed up so badly, but I mean, not really. They have Josh Heupel, but he is a disciple of Mike Leach. Purdue hires Illinois' Ryan Walters as its football coach. He was their defensive coordinator. So we'll see how that works out for them. He has not been a head coach before. He spent the last two seasons with Illinois, posting an 8-4 record. Last year, of course, they lost to Indiana. But under Walters, the Illini led the nation in scoring defense this past season. Led the nation. 12.3 points per game. They were number 2 in total defense at only 263 yards a game. He becomes the 4th youngest coach in FBS football behind Arizona State's Kenny Dillingham, who's 32, South Alabama's Kane Womack, former Hoosier, DC, who's 35, Oregon's Dan Lanning, who's 36. Walters is also 36. He spent 6 seasons at Missouri before joining Illinois. 3 of those were as a DC. So Purdue's going to be going from a very different scenario of having a coach who is an offensive-minded juggernaut type coach to one now that's a defensive stalwart. It's going to be interesting to see how that changes things. From a recruiting aspect, the coaching hires, it's just going to be interesting to see that play out. Now, and we think that Purdue was left in great shape by Jeff Brom. But then again, I don't cover them closely enough to know what has happened since he left, transfer wise. Have any guys hit the portal? So it's hard to tell. Rudy says he heard a story Mike Leach interviewed for the job at the University of Indianapolis in '94. That wouldn't have surprised me. He was something. Yep. I'd like to have gotten to cover him once, just because of the character he is. Was, still is, I guess, always will be. But yeah, what a loss. That's just.
Did you know that he made a cameo appearance, in the TV show Friday Night Lights as himself?
I probably did, but I don't recall because I watched that series, I think. But he was the coach of Texas Tech then, so that would have made sense.
Yeah, so he talks to the main character at a gas station asking for directions to Lubbock. And after he does that, he recognizes the main character as the high school coach at Dillon East. And he tells him that he's lost his inner pirate, which I thought was pretty funny.
I don't recall that. But that would that's Mike Leach, man. He was just I was watching the SEC Network had a Remembering Mike Leach thing on last night, and I was watching part of it. I recorded it, so I'm going to watch the thing in its entirety. I don't want to miss a Mike Leach story. They're just great. As a matter of fact, I ought to just pull some of those Mike Leach. You should see if you can pull some Mike Leachisms up. Some of the things he has said over the years, just unbelievably funny. Oh my. Here's funny. Here's something you want to talk about. Guess who Cincinnati is playing in their bowl game, John?
Oh, they're playing the Louisville Cardinals.
Who coaches Cincinnati?
Well, now it's Scott Satterfield. He won't be on the sidelines, but
who was the coach? Who was the coach of Louisville?
It was also Scott Satterfield. You know what's even funnier about the bowl game that they're playing in is that the two teams stand on the same side of the sideline next to each other.
What?
Isn't that unheard of? So that they're playing it in Fenway Park. And because of the way the baseball stadium is set up, both teams have to stand on the same side of the field when they're not playing each other, but when they're on the sidelines.
Well, that would generally, yes. That's I did not watch that game last year, so I did not realize that. That's very ironic. But man, yeah, how about that? Cincinnati playing Louisville. Scott, that's well. So he will not be coaching in the bowl game, period.
No, but I'm sure he'll be giving some pointers to his Cincinnati brethren now that he's on that side of the ball.
Yeah, now I see the layout for the ballpark now. Boy, they were barely able to squeeze a football field into that because it's got that wonky setup. They've got plenty of room on the player side of things for both teams. That's kind of funny. But you know what? It's like that in soccer. So you got 50 yards. Is that not enough? Normally you only use you're not supposed to go past the what is it, the 25? I'm trying to think. So you're only allowed to use so many yards anyway. They're not losing that much, and it's just unique. It's kind of unique. I wonder what they do to keep them separated.
Yeah, imagine seeing a sideline brawl between the two schools at halftime or something like that.
It's going to be interesting.
And they're natural rivals anyway. They used to play for the Keg of Nails, was it?
Yep. Well, in the old Metro Conference days, they were always rivals in one form or another. But
Indiana still needs to bring back the bourbon barrel matchup with Kentucky. Maybe they need to get better first, but
yeah, I mean, playing Louisville as opposed, I'd rather see him play Kentucky than play Louisville. But that series is never going to come back. For one, the reason it was retired was because it was a bourbon barrel, and Kentucky had
collegiate students.
Kentucky had some issues of things happen. I think someone died in an accident that had been drinking right about then. So that's part of the reason why that thing went away. So there's that. Man, Indiana, everybody's off this week, of course, for finals. Not a lot going on, but not entirely true, as were some games scheduled last night and are some games scheduled tonight, I believe. It's just not too many of the big boys playing. Let's see. We can get some scores and schedules pulled up for what all happened last night. I'm trying to think if there's any even big games. I don't recall.
I do think there were 2 top 25 matchups. That was either yesterday or Monday. I'm trying to take a look at myself as well, see what some of these results were.
I don't see. I see a lot of Power 5 teams that played, but they all played.
Alabama and Memphis, close game.
91-88. Yep, I watched part of that one. I didn't watch the end of it.
Blowouts yesterday. What else? What we have going on Monday? Texas beat Rice in overtime. That was their first game without head coach Chris Beard while he's under investigation. So a lot going on with Texas.
Yeah, he is suspended indefinitely. That is going to greatly affect their program. They're a top 10 team that it's going to be weird to see them.
And to think, many Indiana fans wanted Chris Beard a couple of years ago.
Not only that,
he was hot on the job market.
You've got that, and guess what else? Tamar Bates decommitted from
Texas. That's right.
So Indiana was impacted twice in that regard, in a positive way, because that would have been a bad situation. That would have been just not what Indiana needed after having gone through what they've gone through to try to get the right guy and for that to happen. That would just have really been another blow to a program that doesn't need another blow. We've got to take a break. It's Wednesday. We've made the midway point of this week as finals week. How's your studying going? Just kidding. Hope you're having a great day. Don't forget about our good friends from Baby's Market. Your butcher, baker, whatever you need. They offer the full services and top of the line. Incredible. JD made food there. Chef JD. Part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club. Make sure you go to Endeavor Hospitality's My Wow Network and sign up for the Wow Club. Start earning Wow rewards today. It's your Apple app or Google Play Store. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
All right, quick update. Kyler and Zach are both coming on now. Zach is going to do 950 and Kyler's going to try to do 910.
Who's 950?
Zach.
And Kyler's what?
9-10. He said he's going to be cutting it close, though, but he's going to try. They both got back to me pretty much right at the same time, and they both wanted 950, and I had to make a judgment call.
Let's see. I got to talk about RC.
What does RC do?
I saw him out in Las Vegas.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did he go to the game?
He did. I saw him and his cousin.
That's pretty cool.
Great guy.
So as long as everybody's able to come on when they're scheduled, after this segment, you'll have 3 straight guests, and then you'll have one segment alone at the very end.
Yeah, I'm reading Dwayne's comment that when he logs on through YouTube, he listens. God dang it, I didn't go fix my coffee. How much time I got?
Let me see. Minute 20.
Try to get it started at least.
Let's see. What's it saying? He has to listen to Mexican commercials. I wonder what that has to do with. Because he's Dwayne, you're located you're not in Indiana, are you? I think you're in the Georgia area, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. What'd you say? Evansville. Forrest is from Georgia. That's who I'm thinking of. I apologize, Dwayne. I was getting you confused. Hey, Jim. I also started Ted Lasso. I've seen the first season all the way through. I'd never seen it before until recently. If you want to bring up Ted Lasso for any reason, I don't know if aren't they making a 3rd season? Oh, we're coming back, by the way. You got 10 seconds.
Star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Wednesday, December 14th, here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, high atop the 18th fairway. It was warm when I stepped out last evening. I mean, for this time of year, I was like, wow, this is not bad. Not bad at all. As a matter of fact, looking at the temperature now, I'm like, holy cow, it's going to rain today, but a little rain in 43. That's definitely a little bit of wintertime weather. It's what you expect leading up to Christmas. Got your Christmas shopping done? What happened to Dustin? Dustin's off today. He's on assignment.
He'll be back on Friday.
If we let him.
Yeah, if we let him. He's on a short leash.
I think he can come back, just waltz in here on a Friday. Gazing at the temperatures as I'm heading to Kansas on Friday. Man, that is going to be, without question, probably the most difficult environment that any of these players have ever played in. I think that is not going out on a limb. And playing at Mackey is very tough, but there's more at Fog Allen. And they, like Indiana, have been doing this for a long time. And Kansas, like Indiana, has played on the national stage for a long time with national championships. So you get that pedigree of I've heard that Kansas fans can be nasty. And I'm like, well, if you go to Assembly Hall, I said the fans are going to be fine. Yeah, but there's going to be some students that are not exactly there's some nasty you'll get that there, but that's everywhere. But I'm looking forward to seeing what that environment is going to be like. I've got an idea. I've been to Cameron. This is about twice the size of that, as is Assembly Hall. But it is going to be loud. I mean, loud. And coming off of finals, coming off of last week, it's going to be interesting to see how this team responds. Of course, it's going to be important to see if another week off has given Jalen Hood-Schifino sufficient time to recover, to play. He is going to be very needed in that game, but even having Jalen Hood-Schifino, he's never played in an environment like that. Never. None of these guys have. Not even Trace Jackson Davis. I don't think that there's been a game that Indiana has played under his career that would fall into that category. To say they have a great home court is they have one of the tops in the country. Assembly Hall is up there, but Assembly Hall is not at the top only because of how they configure the students. If Indiana would configure the student seats in a much more affecting location for the opposing teams, it would be a bigger home court advantage. But it's all about the money. So they've got them in one section for the main part, straight up in that corner, which I really think Indiana needs to reconsider how they do the seating. They're not going to, I don't think, because they don't make changes. Indiana doesn't change. But it's going to be interesting. Kenneth says this is not the normal Kansas team. I'm not sure what that means, but I don't know if they always have a normal team. But they're beatable. The team itself is beatable. Playing in that environment is going to be extraordinarily difficult. No question. The Fog will be in a frenzy for Indiana coming to town, Justin. Yeah. He agrees it's the toughest road game. It's, you know what? It might even be tougher than that just because, like I said, it's twice as big, which means it's twice as loud. We'll just see. Rudy says sports is just a simulation of war. In a way. That's, I think, part of the reason Bob Knight, big fan of history, generals, what the generals did, how they moved things. He studied that. Mike Leach. I mean, if you watch something about Mike Leach, he was teaching a class at Washington State. I forget the name of it. I was watching it last night, but it was funny. And people lined up for that class like you wouldn't believe. You couldn't get in. There were so many people trying to get into it, and it wasn't so much about football, but yeah, he was a smart guy. He had a law degree. He was a smart one. Unusual. Did not come up the normal way. I had forgotten that back in the was it the early 90s or the 90s when Hal Mumme was at Kentucky and they had the air raid. His offensive coordinator was Mike Leach.
He was the quarterback's coach, not the offensive coordinator.
Oh, quarterback's coach. But
he was the coach over Tim Couch, though.
But I think he was drawing up the plays, kind of a thing.
Okay.
But
it very well could have been.
I didn't remember that either way. But man, to think that that's where he was. I do remember those Kentucky teams, and man, they were winning until they got caught cheating. Hal Mumme went down for that. But yeah, he was something. Kenneth's asking what happened at Baylor. Are you talking about something like now? Wow. Holy cow, that's not good news. That's not something that just happened. But
I'm not seeing anything
noteworthy
about Baylor.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that.
He may be referring to something else that we may have spoken about.
Yeah, it must be. I know they've got transfers and all that. It's going to be interesting to see how the transfer market affects Indiana football going into next year. How that fallout all ends. I know people aren't really thinking about that right now. They're focusing on having fun and enjoying Indiana's basketball run. It's going to be interesting to see how Louisville does in the transfer market now that Jeff Brom is there.
I'll tell you what, they already failed at somebody who I thought would be a surefire get for them, and that is Western Kentucky quarterback Austin Reed, who threw for over 4,000 yards this year. He had his name in the transfer portal, was expected to go to Louisville with Jeff Brom, and then decided he's not going to transfer, period, and just stay at Western Kentucky, which is really surprising considering the numbers he put up.
Wow, yeah, it really is, because that would have given him an opportunity to appear on the national stage, maybe Heisman-esque. Those are Heisman-esque numbers.
Yeah.
So Baylor University DB David Neal entered his name in the portal. He's making a visit to Louisville this weekend. He's originally from Lexington. So the Brom effect is going to be specific, something specific. I mean, it's going to be tangible. You're going to see the Brom effect there. I really believe that.
It's really terrible timing for Indiana fans because they start that 3-game series with them starting next year. And Jeff Brom obviously knows all the ins and outs of the Indiana program.
Well, there's not a lot to even you need to know. I mean, I'm thinking, will they be better in year one than he was at Purdue last year? Very possible. But I don't know what they're going to have. I don't know. Like I said, but
and that's kind of the beautiful thing about, and you can call it beautiful, you can call it ugly, you can call it whatever you want. But this transfer portal, if you don't like the team that you had last year, you could have a totally different team the following year, and it looked completely different and put you on a completely different trajectory. That's the one good thing, and there's more than one good thing, but the primary good thing to me about this transfer portal, if you're unhappy with your team, is that sometimes it may only take one season to get you back on a positive track.
Yep. It's the first thing that new football coach Ryan Walters did. He took a walk-on freshman, Devin Mockabee, and put him on scholarship.
Well, how nice of him. What was
Do you know
his
why?
position?
You know why running back? Do you know why?
How come?
He was the defensive coordinator at Illinois, and he remembered him.
Oh, did he recruit him at Illinois?
Well, I don't know about recruiting him. They played against him. So it was his play that he's like, this dude needs to be on scholarship. So he said, when I found out he was on scholarship, he was a walk-on. I went, what the hell is going on over here? So first order of business I'm going to do, pull rank right now. You're on scholarship.
Wow.
I mean, that's pretty cool. That's a cool, very, very cool by Coach Ryan Walters there at Purdue. I mean, you got to enjoy that. That's a cool move to make. I mean, I guarantee it's something that kid was not expecting. So, it's a big deal when walk-ons get put on scholarship. It's a huge deal because they work every bit as hard as the kids who are already on scholarship, but they've been doing it without that, without those extras, without the extra things that scholarships players get.
Just look at our man, Mitchell Page, and what he was able to do starting off as a walk-on.
Absolutely. But, it's a huge deal for those guys, and whenever that happens. But, man, it is going to be a fun time in Lawrence, Kansas. I certainly hope that Jalen Hood-Schifino is able to play, because if he can, that changes that team so damn much. And they're a competitive team with the likes of Kansas. I truly believe that. They're competitive with Arizona if they have Jalen Hood-Schifino. Competitive. Now, are they better? No. Arizona's still a better team.
Now, they were competitive with Arizona during flashes of the game over the weekend. Now, they weren't the dominant team, but they were competitive without Jalen Hood-Schifino.
During flashes, but you can't do it during flashes. You have to do it the entire time. And so that's the difference. It's a difference maker. He is a difference maker. It just makes things well. Otherwise, you have the same team that you had last year that finished ninth in the Big Ten, people. So you have to keep that in mind without players like him. And Malik Renew is, I don't want to, his growth curve is about what you would expect for a freshman. He's playing pretty well. He's still playing well. He's just, his minutes have gone down a little bit, which I was surprised to see him go down. But I think they'll come back as they come back around. As he gets a little bit of Big Ten experience, the more he gets of that, then his minutes will come back. And I don't think it's going to take long. I think he's a quick learner. And he is going to be a valuable part for Indiana during the Big Ten season. I think it's just going to be a few games for him starting off, getting to that point. So we've got to take a break. Up next, Kyler Staley is going to join us from thehoosier.com. We're going to talk more about things that are coming up, what's going on in the recruiting world as well. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club and great products like GoTeen. GoTeen for those that are on the go, whether it's you or one of your children, your students, athletes. It's hard to find fresh and tasty food that's convenient to eat on the go. GoTeen created for those go-getters just like you. Go to GoTeenBites.com, or you can just pick them up at BB's Market. GoTeen is a proud partner of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's the deal.
Hey, Kyler, thanks for dealing with the short notice and then flipping times around. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem.
We just had 2 guest cancellations last night, and I was trying to get 2 people in, and then you all both. I told you I shouldn't have really given you the selection. I was like, man, because I hadn't heard from Zach at the time, even though I'd already asked him. And then I was like, okay, I don't know if he's going to get back to me, so I'll just give Kyler 2 options. So.
it ain't no problem.
Right after I told you were good is when Zach texted me. I was like, are you freaking kidding me?
It ain't no problem. I was dealing with a little work thing that I needed to get done this morning ASAP, but I got it done pretty quickly. So we're all good.
Well, I appreciate it. And I know Jim appreciates it too. And we won't need you tomorrow, by the way. This will take your spot for tomorrow.
That works. Yeah, I'll be busy tomorrow. Anyways, I got to wrap up a lot of stuff before I drive to Kansas.
Oh, yeah. Lawrence.
I
bet there's nothing to do in Lawrence other than watch Kansas sports.
Lawrence of Arabia.
I have to flex on this a little bit. Jim probably didn't tell you, but in Vegas, a fan came up to Jim, me and Keegan, and recognized me first before he recognized Jim.
That's hilarious.
And Jim's like, well, that's a first.
I also heard that that you had to like be rerouted on your flight to Vegas.
Dude, I had an emergency landing on the way there.
We have to talk about that. So just hold
okay, yeah,
we'll do it.
Yeah. Make sure you start with that. Don't forget. I know Jim, you can get off on tangents.
What else is? Let's see.
Weren't you at some games last night, Kyler? Some high school games or something?
I was, but it wasn't any IU guys or anybody.
What? Any any changes on the recruiting front?
Not that I'm aware of. It's been pretty quiet with these 2 road games, so nothing's changed off the top of my head as far as the guys that they're looking at.
I would think this would be are they able to get out and travel right now?
They can get out and go to games. Obviously, you can't interact with them right now.
I would think they would be gone all week.
Well, yeah, they've been making trips to Montverde to watch some of their guys. So, but yeah.
All right, here we go.
Popular gathering spots in Bloomington. Whether you're out on a date with your spouse, friends, or coworkers, Feast Market and Cellar offers an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It's Wednesday, December 14th. Here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, high atop the 18th fairway, Kyler Staley from thehoosier.com joins us now, brought to you by our good friend Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between you getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Welcome, Kyler Staley. How was Las Vegas?
It was good.
How was the flight to Las Vegas?
Knew you were gonna ask me that. Not good. The flight was not good. It was so yeah, I told a lot of people, but yeah, so I leave from Indy. My connection flight was supposed to be to Phoenix, and I was gonna, connect to that, go to Las Vegas, get there Thursday night, get about an hour up in the air. I should track back. They made me check a bag right before I got there, which I wasn't too happy about, but it is what it is.
Why did they make you check them?
My bag was too big, which was, I know that's hit and miss a lot of the times, but anyway. So I'm up in the air for probably about an hour on the way to Phoenix, watching a movie. Pilot comes on the air and he goes, by the way, we've got to do an emergency landing in Chicago. Wouldn't tell us why. So 10 minutes goes by. He said we'd get there probably about 30 minutes. So obviously, a lot of panic in a lot of people's eyes. There was a lot of IU fans on that flight that were doing the same flight that I was doing. So, we land. Well, it gets about 20 minutes, and the pilot comes on back on the air, and he goes, just to let everyone know, there will be safety vehicles waiting for us when we land. So that's kind of scary. So we land. Sure enough, there's fire trucks around us and everything. They tell us to just sit in our seats for a little bit as they try to check on things. Nobody wants to sit in their seats. They want to get out. So we get out finally. There's a plane that's coming to take us to Phoenix. It won't be there for an hour. I'm going to miss my connection flight. So that's not good. So I'm more worried about my check bags at this point. Where are they going to be? They wouldn't put my bags on the new plane that was coming. So I was like, what's going to go on with my bags? So they say it'll be on the first American Airlines flight tomorrow morning, which would be that Friday. I was like, okay, well, it doesn't make sense for me to go to Phoenix. I'll just stay in Chicago. I did that. Got on a United Airlines flight that left around the same time as my bags were going to leave on the American Airlines flight. I get there. Keegan's there waiting for me. We wait for my bags to come down the checking area from that flight. Bag's not there. I go to the little American Airlines kiosk, tell them the whole situation. They're like, "Oh yeah, your bags arrived last night." So I was like, "Don't know how that happened." Anyway, it was good. The flight back was okay. It was just long, but Vegas overall was pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't recall ever having a situation like that, but and I don't want one.
No,
I watch. I told you this. There's a show on the Discovery Channel, Air Disasters. I watch it nonstop. I watch every episode. I know about everything there is to know about any airplane crash or why a plane could crash. I'm ready. I'm ready. I will bust into the cockpit. I'm ready, man. If they need a co-pilot, what are flaps set at? Flaps at 40. I need air brakes. I've got it all, baby. But yeah, I cannot imagine because it's not like a car wreck, baby.
It's not fun, especially when they tell us like there's safety vehicles waiting for us. Like that makes it a little bit more scary. Like, are we going to be able to land okay? Like, what's the deal here? So, I mean, I'm just glad to be alive. I'm glad to be back in Indiana, and I'm glad I'm driving to Kansas. I just got to say that.
Well, I'm not driving, so I guess I just got to stay clear of the tornadoes.
I guess you and me both, really.
So yeah, last time I was out in Kansas, I was on a plane sitting on the tarmac, and I'm looking out, and I'm like, going, get this thing up in the air, get me out of here, man. Because there's always tornadoes in Kansas, it seems. But this is not supposed to be the time of year, but heck, you never know, man. Basketball continues. High school basketball is the only thing that's really going on right now, at least as far as we're concerned. But none of the IU prospects out and about. Anything new happening in the land of recruiting?
It's I mean, with these last two games being on the road, it's been pretty quiet for Indiana. Not to my knowledge, are there any upcoming visits? The only one I do know is in February, and that's Raleigh Burgess. He's going to go for the Ohio State game. That's an Indiana target. I've been talking to him quite a bit over the past couple months. But other than that, it's been pretty quiet. Indiana hasn't really done a whole lot of traveling as the season's kind of really started to get towards the center of the core of the season. They have gone out to Montverde a couple times already to watch some of their games, to watch Liam McNeely, Ozzie Newell, Derek Queen, those guys that they're recruiting pretty hard. Other than that, it's been pretty quiet. I mean, the prospects in the state that Indiana's looking at, Harrelson, Flory Badunga, Trent Sisley, those guys have been really playing very well to start the season. I mean, Flory Badunga just had a combined of 56 points in 2 games last weekend. It was insane, like a 25 of 27 shooting, which all of his, scoring is just dunks. So Jalen Harrelson's looked really, really good. Just put up 39 points over Bloomington North, which has JQ Roberts, a former IU target that's going to Valparaiso. And then Trent Sisley, he's just been one of the top scorers in the state. I would not be shocked. He's kind of my bold prediction as leading scorer this season.
Yeah, I've been keeping tabs up on him. I've sent out several tweets. What is he averaging? His high, I think his high this year is 36 points. What's he averaging?
I don't
Probably
know if
20, probably around 28 points, I'm going to guess.
it's got to be in the high 20s. When I watched him at Brownsburg a couple weeks ago, he dropped 30 points, and it was like 30 of Heritage Hill's 58 total points. So he's just
Now, I will say this, and some of the teams they play are not exactly this is not the same type of competition that said Jalen Harrelson's going against, and you have to keep that in mind, and that does always make you wonder. You look at an Anthony Leal, he led a team to be 32-0 and was their leading scorer. So, but they play a schedule that I would say probably not that was stronger than Heritage Hill's schedule. I'm going to guess, just because of the schools. Bloomington South versus Heritage Hills.
Yeah. And at the time, you had, they played like Silver Creek, who had Trey Kaufman and, Cooper Jacoby and those guys. Bloomington South, Bloomington South still plays a tough schedule. They try to play the tougher teams. They do travel up to Indy sometimes, but they play usually the toughest teams in the Southern Indiana region. But I always go back to Anthony Leal and his high school team. If COVID hadn't happened, I think Bloomington South would have been undefeated and won the state championship that year.
It's going to be interesting. As far as recruiting, do you expect any of the coaches to see any guys this week anywhere?
I don't expect it. I think they're trying to focus. Kansas. That's a big road game environment. I think they're focusing on that. I don't see them going out anywhere this week. As far as the next couple of days, there's not really any big games. It's kind of a weak slate these next couple of days, and unfortunately the weekend is kind of a big slate, but they'll be on the road at Kansas, so don't expect them to go out to see any guys this week. Probably starting next week, I could see them going out.
Yeah, it would be just, you'd think that this would be a week that they could get something done, but it's also maybe it's a catch-up time to refocus, because you can't recruit every time you have an off day. You've got to do something at home. You've got to continue to move your own team forward, which is where they are right now. I would not be surprised to see Indiana play a very, very good game this weekend. I don't know what I expect, only because of the environment, A, and B, I don't know if Jalen Harrelson's playing. That makes a damn difference, without question. Nothing against Trey Galloway, but he's not Jalen Hood-Schifino. I said Jalen Harrelson, didn't I? He's not Jalen Hood-Schifino. And it's great having Trey Galloway come off the bench, because he's a solid player. And getting these minutes that he's getting is going to make him a better player off the bench. It's going to make Indiana a better team, hopefully. You hope that that's what they do get from this, playing not just without Jalen Hood-Schifino, but playing without him against such a high-level caliber of opponent, in which they battled with Arizona. They just made – well, they were outplayed, let's just be honest. Arizona's a better team. Let me get that out of the way. Even if Indiana had Jalen Hood-Schifino, Arizona is still a better team. But it doesn't mean they can't beat them. I think that they can. This Saturday, without Jalen Hood-Schifino, I don't know, because of the environment, I don't know that Indiana can win that type of game, because this environment is going to be absolutely exact opposite of what they experienced in Las Vegas. And Las Vegas was maybe better than being in a home game, because it was a more intimate environment than in Assembly Hall. And you had however many fans were there that were, I'm telling you, it was 85% Indiana. Well, it's going to be 95 to 8% Kansas. I mean, there's going to be little. Again, but I also, you're going to be surprised, Kyler. Indiana fans will find ways to get tickets to this game. I do recall at Duke, I was shocked. I was like, damn, how did Indiana fans get their hands on that many tickets? Just like the Kansas game. I don't know how they got their hands on that many tickets because there's an allotment to each school. And that means that many Kansas fans had to give their tickets up. You muted yourself, my brother.
Kyler, I don't know if you're muted or if you need to rejoin because
I think he muted himself probably when he fell out.
Now?
There we go. We got
Yeah, now you kicked yourself out by accident. You'll have to rejoin us. But yeah, what was I just saying there, John?
there was so much going on the past 15 seconds.
So what you're saying is you weren't paying attention. I know. There you go. You're back.
Sorry about that, guys. But anyway, no, I was with you, so shocked to see how many fans, came to the Arizona game. Obviously saw a lot of them during I
was not shocked at how many came. I was shocked at how many were able to get their hands on tickets because Indiana was allotted 6,300. I think that arena holds a little over 12. There's been I saw people that said 16. That's not true. It's about 12. T-Mobile holds like 17 or something, I think. But anyway, regardless, that means Indiana got their hands on an additional 5,000 tickets. From Arizona fans had to give them up. That just blew my mind.
I mean, yeah, and it's also kind of poor effort. No knock on the Arizona fan base. It's also kind of poor effort on them. That's basically a home game for them. They can make that easy travel. But, as far as Kansas goes, it's definitely going to be the toughest environment Indiana's played all year. The Centos Center, when they played Xavier, was pretty tough, but it's going to be nothing like Kansas. The main thing is, let's just go ahead and assume Jalen Hood-Schifino's not playing. The main thing is Indiana's bigs, their front court is going to have to play better. The teams that Kansas has struggled with this year has had size. Has had a good front court. Indiana's got a really good front court. They might not necessarily be the biggest front court, but they're really skilled. They're going to have to take advantage of that if they want to have a chance. They're going to have to limit the turnovers. Xavier Johnson's going to be, if Hood-Schifino's not playing, he's going to have to stay on the floor. He's not going to have to pick up, quick fouls and, have him sit. Tamar Bates has been amazing off the bench. Miller Kopp's been really improving as of late. Those guys really need to play consistent, but I think the key here is, regardless of Jalen Hood-Schifino or not, I think the key here is the front court for Indiana. Trace Jackson-Davis is going to have to play like an All-American, not like he did against Arizona, going like 10 minutes.
You can't read that, but it says TJD has to show up.
There it is. I mean, as simple as that. And hopefully Race Thompson, his performance last week, hopefully that's a jump start to his season. So,
well, and does that give Kansas pause, which is this is why Mike Woodson wants Race Thompson doing that. Does this give Kansas pause now? How do they defend Indiana? How are they going to defend Race Thompson? If Race Thompson can do that and draw a big guy out, well, that gives Trace Jackson-Davis a hell of a lot more room to work. Also gives the guards more room to penetrate, kick. Miller Kopp, Tamar Bates, those guys. If I know a lot of people pucker when they see Race pull back the shot when he's behind the 3-point line, but if he could hit those with some consistency, that is what then the other team has to respect that. And when they have to respect that, whether it's him or anybody, actually, but especially a big, you're drawing one of their bigs away, and you're giving Jordan Geronimo or Tamar Bates or Jalen Hood-Schifino or Xavier a lot more lanes. You're opening up the space that they have not had, and you saw they didn't have that against Kansas, and Kansas packed it in and just destroyed Indiana from that regard until the second half. It got a lot better, but Michael but that's
Yeah,
this is my take on it.
yeah. It's the main thing is front court's got to play better. They've got to crash the glass. They've got to rebound. They got to be the better rebounding team if they want to have a chance. Limit the turnovers. I mean, it sounds simple on paper, but it's not. It's going to be a tough environment. It's going to be the toughest team Indiana's played all year, I think. Even tougher than Arizona. So,
Well, how about they did good? Indiana only turned the ball over 10 times in the Arizona game. 10. But my Lord, Arizona turned that into 16 points.
that's the problem.
That was amazing. That's an amazing stat. That is an amazing stat. Only 10 turnovers, but you cost yourself 16 points.
Yep.
Think about that, folks. That's 8 trips down the court. 8.
And a lot of those came from the 17-0 run that they had at the beginning of the game. So, only 10 turnovers, but you got to think about the points to score off those turnovers. Arizona had an answer for every single one of Indiana's runs, and that was because they were allowed to score off those turnovers.
What do you have coming up for the folks at thehoosier.com?
You're right. So we've got a few. I've got a few highlight videos from Sneakers for Santa a few weeks ago. From that we're getting ready to post an evaluation with them. We got Gabe Cupps and Flory Badunga getting ready to come up. We're working on getting a Jalen Harrelson highlight video put together, some film that I've gotten the past couple weeks of him. So other than that, we've got the Kansas game, and there's going to be a lot of preview content for that. And then obviously we'll be out there in full force this weekend. So it should be fun.
Yeah, Flory Badunga, he is just going to be the prize
for anybody.
Seriously. Yeah, I mean, do you think Indiana will truly have any shot at him?
They will have a shot at him until they feel like they don't have a shot. I know that's a vague answer, but that right now they're recruiting him like he doesn't have a shot. So that's how it is going to be with a lot of programs, not just one in particular. It's how it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree. It's we'll see. All right, brother. Kyler Staley from thehoosier.com. Give Kyler a follow on Twitter at Kyler Staley to keep up to date on all things recruiting and IU basketball and athletics. Appreciate you, sir.
Yep. See you guys.
You bet. Hey, we're brought to you by our good friends at Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. If you're down in the Louisville, Southern Indiana, Floyd, Clark, Harrison, Scott County areas, you need Barbara Pop Real Estate Services, who have served that community for 3 decades. Reach out to Barbara at barbarapop.com, or my man, Matt Lincoln, Matt at barbarapop.com. We've got more coming up. I believe Kyle Neddenriep is with us next from the Indy Star. Back with that right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda. All right. What is today?
Wednesday, the 14th.
Yeah, temperatures are going bad, but it's down, but it's not going
I
to
think there's a chance for snow next week. I was looking ahead. That's for my area. Maybe different up in where you're at.
Yeah, not next Thursday.
Is that what I'm seeing too? Yeah, I'm seeing Thursday into the week. Pretty much, man, it could snow all the way into Christmas. Should be kind of cool.
Low of 8, 7, 8, 11, 15, 19,
I don't know that in my lifetime I've
21.
ever seen a true white Christmas. Like I've seen a little bit of snow on the ground, but never like a true few inches.
I have, but it's not.
I mean, it's
common.
where we live. We don't
Yeah,
live
it's not common. We're a January, February snow.
Yeah. So that'll be cool to have a real white Christmas for maybe the only time in my life.
See, whatever. I'm like, yeah, you got to tramp through all that stuff.
You don't have to go. I mean, unless you just have to go somewhere that day.
Now,
you don't have to.
just so everyone knows, not that they need to know, it's no one's business, but so don't forget, I leave for Kansas after the show Friday. and then Sunday, fly back Sunday, but I fly back Sunday and then fly straight to Florida from there.
We'll need to talk later this week about what to plan for shows for next week, since you're going to be doing that. And I also won't be here for Tuesday and Thursday.
And I will be there through the 30th, but that's on like that's a Friday, maybe? I don't remember.
That's like a 2 weeks right there.
10 days or something, yeah.
That'll be a nice little trip for you.
Well, you know what? I'm not I'm doing this as a favor for someone else, but my daughter's going to come down for a couple of days, so that's going to be great.
Nice.
Otherwise, I would not have gotten to see her for like 4 days. I can get her to come to Florida, but it would be difficult to get her to come to see this 8 degree nights.
Yeah. Kyle should be here shortly. I haven't heard from him, but I did text him. He usually just kind of pops in, so we'll see. Right,
I'm looking at
extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. How's everybody doing? Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star joins us, brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar, located right next door to Southern Stone Restaurant on Patterson Rogers. Feast is one of a lot of people's favorites. Great place to go for a date or any place. Wine, let's get Kyle a bottle of wine. You a wine lover, Kyle?
I'm not. No,
How about your wife?
Yeah, my wife is.
Well, then we need to get your wife a bottle. That would go a lot farther. We'll get your wife some. You know what? I got to write that down. Kyle's wife wine Christmas.
There you go. Thank you.
Kyle's wife wine Xmas. Well, that does two things. That makes you happy and her happy, because if she's happy, you're happy, right?
There you go. Exactly.
Happy wife, happy life.
Exactly.
What's her? Is she a red wine drinker? White wine?
That's a great question. I don't even know. That's how little I know about what she's ordering, Kyle, I guess. But
see, that's what happens when you're out every night covering games, and he has writing every day. He doesn't get to do that stuff. It's the old story of the journalist with a surprise. You need one of the old time hats, man. The old time hats with the little press, with the little piece of paper that says press on it. I'm gonna have to get one of those. I should do that one time. I've got a couple of those hats, but I should just take a piece of paper and just have press put on it, tuck it in the bill, and wear that to one of the IU games and see how that goes over.
There you go. Like the fedoras or whatever.
Yes. I've got a couple of those. That would be hilarious. How's Kyle Neddenriep doing?
Doing good. Yeah, starting to get into finishing up football things, and Mr. Football getting closer on that, and then definitely fully into basketball at this point, though.
I saw that. Let's see, where was that? The hell, that was 9:00 this morning. Indiana Mr. Football finalist is one of the things that you guys have out for the
Drake Bowen from Andrean, Micah Coyle from Center Grove.
No favorite here, baby. No favorite here, baby.
Repping the Coyle name. And then Mason Wunderlich from Evansville Mater Dei is also the he makes up the third. So, Bowen, Coyle, and Wunderlich, they've all actually won a state championship, although Bowen was last year, not this year. But Coyle, he was on the 6A champion, and Wunderlich actually played against Bowen and Andrean, and they beat him this year. They lost to him last year and then beat him this year. So definitely, I think it helps, when you're playing in that. We talk about it every year. It helps when you're playing on that stage in the state finals, and certainly that's what the votes show again this year.
And not only playing at it, but winning it also probably helps, especially if you're orchestrating that. And as a quarterback, although modern day, what are they like? 3A?
2A.
Oh my gosh. To have a 2A guy up there for that award, I think is pretty cool. Going up against the bigger boys, especially Micah from Center Grove. I mean, that's as big as it gets in Indiana. So that's kind of a David and Goliath battle there.
Although I'd say Micah, in his case, it's not like he's a big monster guy, and he wasn't very well known coming into this year. So, for him to make it, it's sort of I would say Micah's maybe the biggest surprise of the three, but also he, Center Grove always has a really good running back. That's something you can kind of always count on. Speedy guy, he's very fast, and things kind of opened up for him. Their starting running back got hurt. First game of the year, Drew Wheat. He was on our, super team preseason team. He only, I think, carried 7 times this season because he got hurt that first game. And then Coyle kind of stepped in and really played really well throughout the tournament. He was just fantastic in the tournament. But yeah, Bowen, I think we probably knew and even probably thought he was the front runner even at the start of the season. Wunderlich, we knew, he was been a good player at Mater Dei for a while. So, even though both those guys are 2A, but it feels like, based on the schedule they play and the success they had. And, if you watch Bowen and Wunderlich, they don't look like 2A players. They're Wunderlich 6'5", and he can really throw it. And Bowen is a big dude going to Notre Dame, and he was the Gatorade Player of the Year last year. So people knew about him already. So they feel more to me like 6A players than somebody who put up stats in 2A, because, Mater Dei plays a great schedule. They play a lot of bigger Evansville teams, and, and obviously they won state in 2A. So they're, I don't even really think of them as like a 2A school, but necessarily.
A lot of Coyle's been doing well here last couple of years. I've never heard. It's so funny because it's like that's a name that's not super common, Irish, but we had the Coyle at Bloomington South a couple of years ago, which blows my mind. But I'm missing a block because no matter what. But where's Micah? Where's he going by any? Is his collegiate choices solidified yet?
No, he hasn't committed yet, so that's still to happen. But and again, he's a little bit smaller back. He's a track guy, speedster type guy. So
we are fast. We are a fast one.
Yeah. So he'll play somewhere, or he'll do track somewhere. But yeah, he's obviously, man, he gets out on the edge, and he's tough to stop. And he kind of ran all over in the some of the bigger tournament games, and Cathedral had a hard time stopping him, and in his offensive line did a great job. But any crack he had, he was taking it to the house late in the season.
I see the new AP high school basketball poll out as well. Ben Davis at the top, 7-0, followed by Penn 5-0, and Brownsburg 6-0. Those are your top 3 teams right now. Ben Davis still having a nice run.
Yeah, so they beat Cathedral. That was kind of the topper of the 6 games at the Southport Fieldhouse for the Forum Tip-Off Classic Saturday. It was I thought Ben Davis played really well. One of the issues, though, KJ Wyndham got hurt at the end of that game, and I believe it's an Achilles heel injury, and I'm not sure if he's going to be able to play. They play Brownsburg actually this weekend on Saturday. I'm kind of questioning if he's going to be able to play based on what I've heard. So, but anyway, I mean, he'll be back. It's not a long-term, out for the season type thing, but it's a sprain or a something that he can come back from. But Ben Davis, to me, I mean, they're about as deep and as good as any team, this season in 4A, and really stuck it too. Wyndham had 5 threes in the first quarter against Cathedral, and they got out to a big lead early, and Cathedral was kind of playing from behind, and they got to find a way to get Xavier Booker going somehow. He in the last 2 weeks, he just hasn't been much of a factor on the offensive end. I think that's partly, I talked to Jason Delaney after that. He said, he's going to have to get more offensive rebounds, and we're going to have to find a way to get him the ball a little bit more to get him going. But that's one thing early in the year. It kind of happened last year too. He had a slow start to last year and then got it going later and really played well in their state championship run. But it'll take, I think, a little bit of time for that to happen. And Cathedral's got, it's a different team this year than it was last year without Tayshawn Comer. So, but that was a good battle. Good. They did come back. I think cut it to close to 7, and then Ben Davis kind of pulled away at the end. So, yeah, Ben Davis rises back up to number 1. And then Penn, man, Marcus Burton was fantastic. The Notre Dame commit Saturday, and Penn's really good team. But Burton was just, I think anybody who saw that in person was kind of looking like, oh, when can we see Penn play again? Because I'd love to see Marcus Burton. I mean, man, he was. I'm not saying he's like Allen Iverson as far as that, but some of the things he does, like he looks like, the way he gets up on his jump shot, the way he kind of gets in small spaces and he's able to get around people or, cross them over and at his size still be able to get space on people. That kind of reminds me of Iverson in a way, or Damian Lillard. I heard someone compare him to, but yeah, so I mean, he 38 points. He just carried them to a win over Zionsville, and then Jalen Harrelson. If not for Burton's performance, would have been the story of the day. He had 35 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, and he is just so good. I mean, they beat Bloomington North. Kind of curious to see how he matched up with J.Q. Roberts of Bloomington North. He's a really good player going to Vanderbilt, and Harrelson definitely got the better end of that battle, team-wise and individual-wise. So, but yeah, Harrelson, Burton, Ben Davis, those were kind of the stories I thought of I thought of the day at Southport, and it was a fun day. It was a good day, long day, another kind of put that in with the Brownsburg event, and it was 2 back-to-back really long days, but the chance to see a lot of teams that, I don't get to see a lot, like Penn, like Marcus Burton, like North Davies came up and played, and they beat Beech Grove. That was good to see them. Again, Harrelson and Bloomington North, I don't get to see them play all the time. So it's fun to see some of those teams you don't always get. Norwell from Fort Wayne, they're another one in 3A that I was very impressed with. Their team, I think, will have a chance to win a state championship in 3A. They come from it's a tough area there in the Fort Wayne area in 3A, but very impressed with that group with Luke McBride and his dad is the coach. So kind of a cool story there, but a very good team.
Jalen Harrelson, I've not gotten to see him play a lot, but I know what he is, and he's a specimen. First of all, a 6'7" point guard. Have you ever seen that in high school?
Not that I can remember. Not like, I was kind of thinking about that. Like,
and I'm not even talking about to his level. I mean, period.
Yeah. I mean, it's just very rare, right? I mean, most of the time in high school, you're putting if you have a 6'7" guy, you're putting him inside, and why wouldn't you, but
yeah, exactly.
I was like, Deshaun Thomas he wasn't a point guard really, but he was a guard who had the ball in his hands a lot. He's the only one I could think of who I would think I was actually thinking about that, this weekend, after watching Harrelson play. But I don't think Thomas, who I can't remember exactly. I mean, I remember covering a lot of his games,
and he's one of the highest scorers in Indiana high school history. I mean, isn't he in like the top 4 or 5?
Deshaun Thomas? He was over 3,000. I can't remember exactly what number he's at now. Probably 3, I would say, all time. But yeah, he was right up there. I think just ahead of Romeo, or might be vice versa. But there.
I think Romeo has like 3,000 or just over 3,000. I think you're right. I think Romeo's probably 4th.
Yeah, but he was more of a shooting guard than a point guard. But Harrelson, and he played probably the best I've ever seen him play Saturday. But it sounds simple, but he just makes by scoring 35 points, it didn't even feel like he was trying to score 35 points. It was just like he was just doing what the defense was giving him. And if they doubled on him, and it's hard to double him because he just passes to the wide open guy, so he makes it look easy that way. And it's just crazy that he's only 15. I mean, it's just like, how is this guy able to do this at the age he is? You just don't see it, it's just, and I hope he stays at Fisher's. And, I know people always are like, well, he's not going to be here. And you hear that with pretty much every top level kid. Like,
see, I don't understand the reason of that either, because this is the guy that's getting recruited by any and everybody. So going anywhere else is not going to, what purpose does it serve him other than if he truly believes it's to get better before he goes to college?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I think that's what it would be. It's like, hey, could I go somewhere and play against D1 guys day in and day out?
Like Montverde Academy.
Right. Or Lalamere or whatever, whatever the case may be, Oak Hill or something, whatever the prep school is. But yeah, I mean, that would be the thing. It's not about getting more looks. For a guy like that, you're going to have everybody you want already looking at you. So it's just, is there a way to get better day in and day out? I think Garrett Weiniger at Fisher's would say, we're going to do everything we can to get you better here, and play a good schedule and do all those things. And I think right now that appeals to Jalen. So, but that's a conversation for another time. I think now you just kind of enjoy what he's doing and, understand that he's, and it's not like he's, he is physically better than a lot of people, but the thing that stands out to me is just the way he understands basketball. It's just, it's very, very, very unique, I would say, the way he can understand how to play, and use his body and, and he's not going to play that way every game, I'm sure, but man, he was really, really good on Saturday.
Yeah. Leslie says not Lalamere, man. Those guys don't go to Indiana. So she's got to say no to them. But Kyle, I appreciate you, man. Make sure you give him a follow. He's got lots coming up at the Indy Star. Be a subscriber. I am. Keep local papers alive. Can't thank you enough, my friend.
You bet. Thanks, Jim.
Kyle Neddenriep, join us here. Give him a follow. We're back with more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends from Metalworks Brewing Company, a part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wild Club. Located right off of the square in the former Function Brewing location. Metalworks Brewing Company is a culmination of a passion for beer, food, and custom metal art alongside a desire to be actively involved in the Bloomington community. We're back with Zach Osterman from the Indy Star right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home...
Morning, Zach.
Hey, how we doing?
Doing good. Thanks for switching up this week.
Yeah, no worries. It's better for me because, I'm like everybody else, I'm traveling out Friday, so
yeah,
this lets me have a little more control in the morning so we can get out.
Well, there we go. I'm glad to help that out.
Hey, Zach, how you doing, man?
Hey, Jim.
How's everything going?
It's pretty good. How about you?
Cannot complain. Just tired, man. Just still trying to get over Vegas.
By the time you get recuperated, you'll be traveling to Lawrence.
About right. Sounds about right. What was I going to ask? Well, it was a hell of an environment out there, as you know. I can't. How did he? I just can't. I don't understand, Zach, how Indiana was able to get their hands on so many tickets from the Arizona. I don't know how so many Arizona people gave up their tickets, because that's what had to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, I think we probably got to stop thinking about these things in terms of. I think what we're learning more and more, unfortunately, is that the secondhand sellers are picking so much of this up so quickly for these events that obviously each school gets an allocation, and this is the way with the bowls too. School allocations for bowl games are usually bad seeds. And so, and they usually cost more money than what you can find on the secondhand market for most bowls.
15 seconds.
So it's better to just, wait for the secondhand market to develop, but that means you're waiting for the ticket sellers to, the stuff
charge prices up.
Yeah. And the ticket
and your thirst.
Eat up a bunch of tickets.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to the Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday, brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill, a part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club. Make sure if you're down in the Bedford area, stop in. They pride themselves on providing their guests with fresh, innovative dishes with a Cajun cuisine designed to please your palate and your wallet. Part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club as well. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star joins us now. Zach, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How about you?
Still recuperating from Vegas, man, and ready to go to Kansas. And then hopefully a little break after that. But Indiana getting one right now of sorts. It's finals week, so no games this week, but studying. And as they get prepared to play the Jayhawks on the road this Saturday, which will be, I'm guessing, the most difficult environment any player on that team has ever played in.
Maybe. I mean, Mackey's pretty tough, to be fair. I mean, Fog Allen obviously has the prestige factor that I think Assembly Hall tends to have as well. And, I don't think.
Doesn't it hold like 16,000?
Is there anybody? I mean, Race Thompson was on the team. I guess I don't think he made the trip when they went to Cameron. I think that was his concussion season. I think he was still in concussion protocol. Maybe I'm wrong. So I don't know that any of these guys went to Cameron Indoor. But, listen, I do think in terms of hostility, in terms of intensity, when particularly when you're Indiana, there's probably nothing worse than Mackey Arena. So, if they're looking for comparisons.
Yeah, it's just, I was going probably on the fact that it's just a little bit bigger. And really, it's not that much bigger. What's it hold? Like 16,000 as compared to 14,000 for Mackey, I think, something like that. So, but and you get the aspect of having an Indiana team coming in for the first time, a so-called brethren blue blood that they definitely are going to want to show out for, because it's not Iowa State coming or just any old team. This is a fellow blue blood coming in, so they are definitely going to want to get their licks in, because they have to come back to Bloomington the following year. I'm trying to find what the actual I can't believe it didn't pop up, but Allen Fieldhouse, what the capacity. There you go. Where's the capacity? Why don't you just show me what the capacity is and tell me instead of making me ask? Allen Fieldhouse was built with a capacity of 17,000 during Ted Owens' coaching period in the early mid-60s, 60s to the 80s. The capacity was reduced to 15 to improve fire code mandated blah, blah. It was raised to 15.8 in the 86 season. And since 93, its official capacity has been 16.3. Of those seats, 4,000 are dedicated to students, with most of the remainder taken by season ticket holding members of William Education Fund. So there you go. So you've got about 12,000 people. And that's where the Indiana fans will be able to try to get their tickets through. 4,000 students there. I believe Indiana has approximately, if it's the same, around 7,000 students, just to compare that to at their games, which is another reason, again, that they should take and disperse those students in a different manner. They have the biggest student population in college basketball, and they used to brag about that, but they don't use it to their advantage. So we'll see. I can't remember how exactly the Fog is set up with their students and whatnot.
I know they have theirs. They have theirs in the end zones, if I'm not mistaken.
On both end zones. Well, and that would, you know what? That probably makes sense. About 4,000. That would be a couple thousand each. Yeah, Zach, I was just talking about the Fog holds about 16,000. So we're looking at similar size, a little bit bigger than Mackey, a little bit smaller than Assembly Hall, but it's how it's built. I think it's really old. I mean, this thing is old, but the tradition that you talked about, it's just going to be a great environment for this team when tournament play comes around, because this is the type of environments they're going to have to play through, actually in conference as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think there's a real value to Indiana being in these games. I think, ultimately, and I'm not trying to, I'm using the Crossroads Classic as the example because that's what would have been on the schedule today, this weekend, if not for the trip to Kansas. I'm not picking on the Crossroads Classic over something else. But from a recruiting standpoint, if you're Mike Woodson, you had all 30 teams in the building for the UNC game. I'd be shocked if you didn't have all 30 NBA teams in the building for the game in Vegas.
This would be the third time, right?
I'd be very surprised if you didn't have all 30 teams in the building for this game this weekend. If you want to really dig down into it even more, the reality is, and I'm sure that this wasn't necessarily the reason these games were scheduled, but it is something that I would bet you Mike Woodson brings up in some shape or form. It's not just that you got all 30 teams in the building. It's that they probably sent three different scouts to each game. So every team is getting a long evaluation of your players, because the scout that will come down for a game in Bloomington is not the scout in all likelihood that will go to the game in Vegas. And the same thing, I would guess, with the game in Kansas, with the game in Lawrence. From an experience standpoint, ultimately, this is a sales pitch. The chance to play in games like this, the chance to play in environments like this, the chance to play IU Kansas, as opposed to, and I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, IU Butler. I haven't. This is literally nothing against Butler. Ultimately, this is a bigger stage. It is. Now, there's a very real world where Thad Matta gets Butler going. It's not hard to see. And then IU Butler becomes that again. I think that the issue for Indiana, really with the Crossroads Classic from a competitive standpoint, became that, I'm trying to remember, only one of their last 4 or 5 wins in that event was against a team that landed in the Ken Pom top 50. It was incredibly it had become not an ankle weight, but it had become a very mixed bag, whether it's Butler or Notre Dame, in terms of what you were getting out of it from a competitive standpoint. The environment was great. And I think you saw last year, I think Indiana players really enjoyed kind of the environment that game turned into. But I think if you're Indiana, you feel like you can probably do that on your own. You got the Miami game at Cambridge this year. I would be shocked if we don't see Indiana in another big one-off game in Indy at some point in the next 2 or 3 years. Indy will always be there for a school like IU. A trip to Kansas won't be. And so for all those reasons, and again, if there are Butler fans watching, I'm going to get murder in the comments. I know that. I'm not trying to pick on Butler. so much as I'm trying to say there's very little out there like Kansas from a competitive standpoint, from an atmosphere standpoint, from an exposure standpoint. And then, hey, listen, if you could find your way to winning this game, which, I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. I wouldn't say it's beyond them. Then obviously from a, an NCAA tournament resume value standpoint.
Yeah, and as far as I think the national exposure is just something that they have been wanting for recruiting, because like you mentioned, Butler, while that would be cool, you already have the Purdue in-state rivalry that is never going to go away. So another in-state rival is not something they want, I think, or need to help them. But the return of the Kentucky series, that's something that people are clamoring for, and has a much bigger national view to it, which is what Mike Woodson, I think, wants for his recruiting needs, as we've seen him step away from just recruiting from all over the place, which he will continue to do. But it's just seeing that Indiana in these games on this stage in these environments, it has been missed for so long, and it is so welcome to see it back. I mean, they've been in the Big Ten ACC Challenge and all that, but it's these other games. This is a standoff. This Kansas game is a standoff, as opposed to being in the Crossroads Classic, which I think everybody is in agreement that it's just more entertaining, but that's the way that they're going to continue to move that program forward, I think, by playing these type of teams and environments.
Yeah, and I mean, at some level, you have these games. I mean, like it should go without saying. Now, it's not like Indiana's failed if it doesn't beat Kansas or Arizona. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I do mean is that if you're going to push yourself to be on these stages more often, you can't turn into the team that always shrinks on them, or the team that goes 1-10 in games like this over a 4-year period or something like that. But I agree with you that I think there has kind of been this attitude, like Indiana has sort of approached these games and thought, let's not go too far, let's not do too much, let's not push ourselves too hard. Let's get 1 but not 2, or let's get ACC Big Ten plus 1 more but not plus 2 more. Let's make sure we're always playing the game at home, or we'll only do this if the team will come to Indianapolis, which, again, like, teams love to come to Indy. I mean, there's a reason teams are clamoring to play in Indy during the pandemic season. It's because Indy is such a smooth event hosting city. But at the same time, teams will still know that Indiana in Indianapolis is not Gonzaga in Indianapolis, like when Gonzaga and Baylor played there a few years ago. So, you have to be purposeful about getting this kind of game on your schedule. If you're Indiana, I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And Arizona's the same way. And I know we're going to see them in New York next year, back in what used to be called the 2K Sports. I think the 2K Sports Invitational. Now I think it's called the Empire Classic. I know we're going to see Kansas come back to Bloomington. You mentioned getting the Kentucky series going again. I also think it's possible we could see Indiana seek out another Vegas-like game in an NBA arena somewhere. A sort of like a one-off against another, pretty good to really good opponent, that kind of thing in the next 2 or 3 years. I think Indiana, no one has said this to me, but Indiana really seemed to enjoy its time in the Bahamas. They play a tournament down there every year. So would Indiana pursue, an opportunity in battle for Atlantis, which is not exclusively Nike, but has tended to, sort of bend more toward Nike in the same way Maui bends more toward Adidas, but you can get in both if you want to be in both. My point in this is you have to be purposeful about it. You can't have situations where you just say, oh, well, we're only going to do the minimum. And then if somebody comes to us with a great opportunity that really makes the most sense for us, we'll take that too. You've got to go to organizers. You've got to go to other teams. You've got to embrace the idea that you play in games like this, and that you want games like this, and that you seek out games like this. And I think you've seen Indiana certainly over at least the next 2 seasons. You know, when you look at next year and you consider that they're going to play 2 games in New York, they'll have, I presume, something replacing the ACC Big Ten Challenge, and then Kansas at minimum. We're going to see it again next year. This is just what you have to do.
Yeah, Robert mentions the Bank won Big Four Classic back in the 80s. Why wasn't that something in the nature work today? Because I think that everybody wants a more national recruiting footprint. And Indiana already plays Purdue, so and people in the state might want to see people play Indiana, or play Notre Dame, but I don't think. And Butler, which is it's cool, but it's not the same as seeing them play Kansas. It's not the same as seeing them play Kentucky. It's not the same as seeing them play these other big time programs. And that's what people want. Not only that, though, that's also, I think it helps build the program back to what it was, keeps your stature and just all that. My personal opinion on that.
Well, I mean, you mentioned the Big Four Classic. I mean, it takes 4 teams to want that, and it still amuses me the extent to which Indiana gets blamed for the death of the Crossroads Classic. Notre Dame pulled out first. Notre Dame won it out before Indiana did, but when Notre Dame pulled out, Indiana thought, well, there's just no way to make this. We've been exploring other opportunities here for a while, and there's no practical way to make this event what it was without Notre Dame. So we're going to step away too. It just, nothing is permanent in scheduling. Like if you think back, like the Crossroads Classic existed for 11 years. That's a long time. Like that is a long time. For something that was driven completely and totally by the schools. It wasn't organized by the conferences, which obviously have a sort of a broader organizing power. It wasn't organized by a TV partner like the ACC Big Ten Challenge is, that being relevant because the TV partners are the ones that can bring the money to the table. It was organized purely by the schools. And so, when you see Kansas and IU maybe only do a 2-year series, we'll see if it gets extended beyond that, but it wouldn't shock me if it just stays at 2 years. Well, guess what? That's kind of the normal life cycle of something like that. And then maybe they circle back in a few years. Maybe Adidas gets involved and says, you are basically our 2 top basketball properties. Maybe we can pull you into something a little bit more regular. But, the truth is those big events, the Crossroads Classic, et cetera, those things, don't tend to last, 20, 30 years. Everything is constantly refreshing itself in scheduling for a variety of reasons. There's now you've got new TV partners. Like, does it, NBC's got its foot in the door of the Big Ten. Would it like to set up some sort of, national NBC broadcasted event? I don't know, maybe. You've got different players. Like, I heard a rumor a couple years ago, Indiana was going to try and play Auburn. Well, 10, 15 years ago, does anybody really care if Indiana plays Auburn? No, but right now that's a great game. Right now that's a program trying to get back into the Final Four, and a program that's been really, really good under Bruce Pearl in recent years. So my point is, in scheduling, nothing is ever permanent. And and that's why I say you've got to be purposeful about getting these games on your schedule, because they don't just come to you. Teams are always sort of changing and flexing and trying to figure out different ways to structure their schedules. Sometimes you got to go to a Kansas, or sometimes you've got to go to an event organizer and say, hey, Arizona's interested. Will you put this together for us? Because it just, there's no sort of just like structure you can just sort of insert yourself into, and it just takes care of itself.
I loved the Phil Nike tournament this year. I think everybody did. It brought a ton of great teams together, but it also had a lot of great basketball. I would be shocked if Adidas as a brand does not do something similar, because this was a Nike thing and there are so many great Adidas programs. Why not do that? Why don't they do that? They have enough teams that they could rotate in and out. And that was just a tremendous event, period, especially for early in the season. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, again, and that's, I mean, the Phil Knight thing has existed for what, 3 years, 4 years? I mean, there are so many, people want this to just be like Indiana and Kansas wanted to play, so Indiana and Kansas played. There are so many more layers than that. You've got to find a broadcast partner. You got to find, if not necessarily an organizing sponsor, like this isn't going to be the Indiana Kansas game brought to you by Fifth Third Bank, but like you've got to find people that are going to, you got to be sure you can line up advertisers, etc. The math's got to work. Both Indiana and Kansas will be schools that will put real value on the ticket take and the game day revenues from home basketball games, because they have such large arenas and such passionate fan bases. You've got to make sure that it works from that perspective. I mean, part of the reason Indiana took 2 public exhibition games this season instead of playing behind closed door scrimmages was because they needed extra ticket revenue. And they needed more in their season ticket packages, because they were going to play Arizona on the road, or well, in a neutral floor, but in Vegas they were going to play Kansas on the road. They were going to play Xavier on the road. They did make the choice to put a game in Indianapolis, and I understand why that upsets some season ticket holders. But my point is, I could sit here and list you a dozen other things and a dozen other substantial considerations that could get in the way of a game like this ever being scheduled. It's difficult, and everybody's got to figure it out. And I'm not trying to make it sound like brain surgery. It's not that complicated. But it's also not as simple as Scott Dolson picking up the phone and calling, whoever. I know Dolson has a really good relationship with Arizona's AD. It's not as simple as him picking up the phone and just saying, "Hey, do you want to play a game?" There are a lot of other considerations and a lot of other details that go into it. And when you can get games like this on the schedule, it's because everybody made an effort and everybody compromised somewhere to ensure that those games lined up, and to ensure that they could get that game for everybody. So it's not as simple as just saying, "Oh, we just go play the best teams." Well, there are still things that have got to. But now, hey, think about. I think people also tend to think about, well, what can't happen in scheduling. Well, guess what can happen now in scheduling? Indiana can go schedule ACC teams in one-off games if it wants to. It used to not want to do that because the ACC Big Ten Challenge always guaranteed an ACC opponent every year. And, it's not like schools never played ACC teams. I know Nebraska played Florida State and Boston College recently. But, I think the bigger schools in particular sort of wanted to make sure they didn't schedule sort of, one-off ACC or Big Ten opponents on the side, because they didn't want to possibly corrupt the matchups. Well, now that's not a problem. So maybe now Indiana and UNC can get together, or Indiana and Duke can get together in a way that they wouldn't have during the ACC Big Ten Challenge, time period. So there are constantly things changing in terms of, opportunities, in terms of things you can do, things you can't do. Again, I suspect the Big Ten will try to add something with its TV partners that will replace the ACC Big Ten Challenge. We'll see what comes of that. But scheduling this is why we always say scheduling is an imperfect science. There's no one formula for it. And if you want to play it at the highest level, sometimes you do have to make some sacrifices. Sometimes you do have to bend over a little bit. Sometimes you do have to go hat in hand to the other side and say, we would just really like to have you on the schedule. What will it take?
And that's what's probably take to get the Kentucky game done. But that's something I'm confident is going to be probably wrapped up at some point. I'd be shocked by not before the end of the season. But Zach, appreciate you, brother. I will see you in Lawrence, Kansas, man.
Sounds good. Travel safe, Jim. Good talking to you.
You as well. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Make sure you give him a follow and be a subscriber. Keep local papers alive. We'll be back with more. Brought to you by Cape Ello Restaurant, a part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club. Looking for something different for lunch or dinner? Visit Cape Ello Restaurant, located on the square in downtown Bloomington. inside. Experience the tastes and traditions of the Italian heritage right here in Southern Indiana. Handmade pastas and house-made desserts. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
All right. Gonna have about 10 minutes here, a little less than 10 minutes.
All right. All right. I have got to get, that's what it was. Well, it worked out. We're getting better at it. We're getting better at. I said we're getting better at it.
What?
Making it happen on the fly.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I didn't about have a heart attack last night or anything. Well, it's because it was all scheduled before this morning. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I am. I'm not going to lie. I was excited to go to Cameron. I'm more excited to go to this one.
I think I would be too. Duke is just.
It's older. This is older. Kansas is more tradition. Duke didn't win their first national championship until 1978. It's all come under Mike Krzyzewski.
Plus, their arena it's historic, but it's also, there's nothing like.
It's fucking small. Whoops.
Yeah, there's nothing cool about it.
Hey, make sure you delete that. It's, no, you don't have to. Sorry, people. I know, but somebody got upset about it the other day.
Well, if they have kids listening, I would understand.
I apologize. I try not to drop that. But yeah, oh man, let me tell you, this is a tougher environment than Mackey. Todd, I think Todd Leary always says, Mackey is one of the absolute toughest places to play, period. But I think this may be tougher because of the tradition, because they're like Indiana fans. When you have that tradition, and I'm gonna I should save this.
Yeah, just wait for it. We're about to come back. Excuse me.
Wait for it.
Here we go.
With an exceptional dining experience. With weekly specials, quick, attentive service, Southern Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back here on this Wednesday. It's high atop the 18th fairway at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Jim Coyle with you. Brought to you by our good friends at Bubba's 33 down in Clarksville, Indiana. If you're down in Southern Indiana, right off of I-65, right there at Veterans Parkway, man. You talk about a great place to watch a game. They've got about 51 TVs, food made fresh every day. And that is a fact, and it is all good. Stop in and say hi to Mike and the guys. I'm looking at the games for tonight. Nothing. I like seeing all these names that do pop out, like Gardner-Webb. Well, you remember, they knocked off Kentucky. There's Miami of Ohio, a recent Indiana opponent, Cincinnati, that's playing Miami of Ohio. Floyd Badunga's the biggest competition for Indiana there, probably. Florida playing Ohio. They're not having a great start. Stetson and your boy Luke Brown. He's having a year. We need to check in on him and see what how his season is going. Let's see. Seton Hall and Drexel. It's on Fox Sports 1. Yeah, you can always just go. This is what the networks have on. Stephen F. Austin and Louisiana Tech. UAB, South Carolina. I mentioned Florida, Ohio, Wake Forest, App State.
You mentioned Seton Hall. They just went into Rutgers and won at the rack. And you know who Seton Hall's new head coach is, right?
I don't recall.
Former head coach of the St. Peter's Peacocks, who defeated Kentucky in the tournament.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting. Seton Hall wins in the rack. Well, for one thing, Rutgers did not have the mentality when Seton Hall came in that they did when Indiana came in. When Indiana was coming in, dude, it's all about, Indiana did not have that mentality, unfortunately. Indiana has to learn, this team has to learn to have that mentality all the time. They need to have it at home. They need to have it on the road. You especially have to have it on the road. At home, you can be brought back up. The home crowd will help lift you up. It's just the natural. When you're on the road, there ain't no lift up, baby. You've got to develop your own. It's like Dabo Sweeney says, you got to bring your own guts. And you got to bring your own everything. And
you got to find your inner pirate. Instead of throw that in there.
Yeah, there you go. As in honor of Mike Leach. Absolutely. But you know what? Damn it. John, you got to try to pull up some Mike Leachisms. You should be able to just Google Leachisms, and I bet they pop up.
I had one earlier, but I didn't know we were going to revisit this conversation. So now I've got to look forward again.
There you go. Following that. Philip says Shaheen Holloway, Seton Hall coach, is also an alumni. Yeah, there you go. Shaheen Holloway. Yeah. So that's Justin. He says he's a huge St. Peter's fan. He's on that train. They beat both their biggest rivals with tough defense. Talking about Kentucky. So, that's just another example. The coach going to Seton Hall, just like Nate Beard. I remember when he had it going on at Buffalo. And I'm like, who the hell is Buffalo all of a sudden? Their football and basketball programs were both ranked. And I'm like, what the hell? And then Alabama sucked up Nate Oates. And look what Alabama's doing right now.
Jim, have you, sorry to interrupt, I know we're running short on time, but have you ever heard Mike Leach's thoughts on marriage?
It doesn't matter if I have or not. It's always worth listening
fantastic.
To Mike Leach.
We'll hit that here real quick, and then we'll wrap things up on the other side. But yeah, here's Mike Leach talking to a reporter who had recently gotten engaged and gives him some advice on wedding prep.
Well, it's too late to rescue you. The best wisdom that I can possibly give, wisdom I can possibly give on that subject, 9 days, and it's a little late. You should have come to me sooner. My wisdom would be, you have to stay out of the way. Now, and I wish you a very happy marriage, and I'm sure you'll have one. But I'm just telling you, when it comes to marriages, the women lose their mind. Your fiance is going to lose her mind. Your mother-in-law is going to lose her mind. Your mom is going to lose her mind. Several of your sisters and female relatives are going to lose their mind, and they're gonna barrage you with constant questions. What should we wear? And then, which of course my answer was, I don't care. And then, what color should the invitations be? I don't care. What should we have for dessert? I don't care. Should we seat this way or that way? I don't care. But see, I don't care is not satisfactory at all. And you're going to get caught in a catch-22, and I'm certain that you already have. And that catch-22 is, well, I want you to be a part of this too. So what color invitations? All right, the blue ones. Well, I kind of like the tan ones. Okay, the tan ones then. Oh, you're just saying that because you want this over with. You're not even thinking about it, which is of course true. And then, what do you want for dessert? I was thinking of strawberry shortcake. Oh, okay. Yeah, strawberry shortcake would be good. Well, what about the blueberry pie? Well, I like the blueberry pie. We could have the blueberry pie. Well, I thought you said you wanted the strawberry shortcake. And it's just going to go back and forth, and they're going to play keep away from you until after you're married. So what you need to do is you need to work late hours, work late, be very nice and supportive, and but they're going to play keep away from you, and there's no answer you can give that is going to be satisfactory or correct.
There you go. That was not that's a good one, but that's not tomorrow. John, we need one each day the rest of the week. Tomorrow there was one on Halloween candy, and there was
it talks about candy corn,
and there's one on raccoons. There's just several. He once taught a 5-week seminar at Washington State entitled "Insurgent Warfare and Football Strategies." We're about out of what do we got? 30 seconds.
You got to wrap up. Yep.
Okay, we'll talk about this more tomorrow. But yeah, he co-authored a book on Geronimo, and so he's a nuts. But hey, we're back tomorrow to do it again. Who's on the program, John?
Oh, we're going to have Matt Taylor from the Colts. We're going to have, I believe, the head man from Kansas Rivals. And then we're going to also have Kristen Ari.
Looking forward to it, that and plus much more, man. We're back again to do it tomorrow. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. Big thanks to Kyler, Zach, and John, the producer. Appreciate everybody. Most importantly, you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. And thank you for doing so. Thanks to John, producer, for keeping us between the white lines. We're back tomorrow to do it again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.